Hey everybody, welcome to the Possibility Mindset Podcast. I'm Devin Henderson, your host, and I believe that something greater is always possible for you. I am joined today by Paul Long.
Here I am.
I always think like when interviews are very very formal and so stiff. I was gonna mess with you and start that way to freak you out because I didn't prepare him at all. So I was gonna be like, so Paul, tell me about when you were a child and how that was and how your parents were, and have you be like, Devin, this is not you at all, and just freak you out. But it fell apart. It didn't really work.
Well, having known you for quite a while,
yeah,
I knew that it was all facade from the
like,
jump.
What is he doing here, man? That's crazy. Dude, well, hey, before we do jump in with my friend Paul, just another thank you to Etc. Shiny for providing breakfast and providing this awesome space. A guy came in today and thought his meeting was in here, so I thought our podcast was going to be sabotaged. Like someone was going to take over the room, but show him Paul. We got Paul here, so I'm like, dude, you're going to move this guy, right? This is funny because the last podcast we did, it was also a guy with huge biceps. I need to start a rule with no more sleeveless shirts for my guests because they're just ripped, right? Because all people are like, man, this guy's ripped. So do you like how I started off with that? How good you look?
Wait. You've had guests that have wore sleeveless shirts?
Yes. No. Okay, short sleeve.
All right,
not
sorry,
sleeveless.
I got it.
That is a big.
That would be awkward.
Oh, that would be funny.
That'd be super informal.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, that's great. Well, as I shared with the guy in the last, my friend from middle school, he's a Top Gun, Navy aviator guy, and he has big biceps too. So I'm like, I wanted to be a bodybuilder growing up, and I work out and stuff, but I've never been big,
sure.
And I used to get intimidated, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, I just appreciate someone like you who's just super jacked.
So
I
greatly appreciate it. It takes a lot of work, as you know, but I will then now turn the appreciation back on Devin.
Bring it on here. I'm ready for it.
We're eating here at Etc. Is that right? Pronounced correctly?
Etc. Yes.
Etc. Right. And of course, I go in. I'm doing the sausage links. I'm doing the eggs over medium. I'm doing the toast and the cinnamon roll and the OJ and the coffee with 7 French vanillas in there. And of course, you got your fruit and your no cheese, and you're constantly thinking about what you're putting into your body, which I do a terrible job of. And I think I would be a lot more lean if I ate like you, my friend.
Well, you don't look not lean.
Okay.
I'm not look at all the cinnamon rolls this guy's packing away. I mean, it shows. No, dude, you obviously are very active to be able to eat like that. Because you texted me your order last night. Large orange juice, cinnamon roll, 24 egg omelet. No. But I was like, dang, how does he? But I remember you shared with me one time we were gigging together. You told me you work out for 2 hours a day or something, and that's how. So it all makes sense, man. So I feel like when I don't I don't spend that much time working out, 2 hours a day. So it's you just have to be more mindful with the diet. If you know what I mean, if you're not going to burn that many calories, that's kind of how I balance it out.
Sure.
So, but to bulk up like you've got to be packing it away and working out that much.
Well,
so.
I take in a lot of calories, but they aren't good ones, my friend.
Yeah. Well, all right. Anyway, okay, cool. So this might last time I joked, this is the bodybuilding podcast.
Nice.
It might become that.
Yes.
Because it is one thing I'm passionate about, just self-care, physical health. I feel like if I were to change topics ever, it would be, I would go into the area of wellness.
Sure.
I already talk about mental wellness to a degree, but physical wellness, working out. I think the problem with me is I don't have the science background for it, right? I don't have some kind of degree in what would be sports medicine,
sure.
or nutrition, to where it's I can talk about the the breakdown of the chemicals and all that in your body, and protein versus carbs, and I know those terms, but anyway.
Why do you think you have to have the science backing?
Oh man, that's a deep question. I feel like in our keynotes, right? Paul's a motivational speaker, by the way. They're like, who is this? What is he talking about? In our keynotes, we like to use science and data and statistics to back things up, right?
We do.
Do you not use any science? I feel like the audience likes science.
Sure.
There's the left brain people who are well, show me the facts, show me the science, where are you getting this data?
Yes.
Right? So using case studies, 3M company did this, and that's how they were more productive. So, but I mean, good point. I mean, I don't have a degree in, maybe some of the data that I share.
Sure.
I'm just sharing data. So I suppose as a nutrition, but I don't know. I feel like nutrition, once you break into the area of science, maybe that's, I haven't ever voiced this, but maybe that's the difference.
Well, I think it's a great segue into what we do, right? And the anything's possible mindset, everything's possible.
Yeah. I don't even know the name of my own podcast. Somehow you gave me all these names. I'm like, maybe I should change the name. Those all sound great. The possibility mindset podcast.
All right, it's the possibility mindset.
It's okay.
Clearly, you did not prepare me at all for this. So,
as you can tell, I like to have fun. See, this is partly like hanging out with friends, podcasting, breakfast. It's so cool. But
yes.
Yeah.
Well, going back to your point about science, so I've been keynoting for quite a while. We met at a Speakers Bureau showcase years and years ago in Iowa. Come to find out, you're right down the road. You live in Shawnee, I live in Lenexa. And so it was weird meeting you,
yes.
4 hours north of our hometown and finding out that you're this established speaker that has a wealth of content and clients, and you're just killing the game. So in my journey as a speaker, I talk about creating joy, fun, and fulfillment in life, and things known as brain pattern interrupts. So consistently, I've had bureau reps tell me, well, where's the science to back what you're talking about? Newsflash, I'm not a science guy. You're looking at a guy that's wearing Ric Flair on his shirt, and I just talk nonsense consistently. And I've really struggled identifying how to incorporate science in my keynote. And here's why. I don't feel like I need science to tell myself or anybody else that the more we gravitate towards the things that give us strength, the more we surround ourselves with great people, the more we interrupt negative brain patterns and generate more things that make us smile, the more joy, fun, and fulfillment we're going to have in life. And so I have consistently avoided statistics. I don't think it's deliberate, but I've never had anybody say, hey, you know what you need in your keynote outside of a bureau rep? More science.
Interesting. So I'm similar in that I don't like statistics, in that I don't trust them. You know what I mean? Because
yes,
I'm like, where's this come from? And people even be like, well, they did a study at this, a peer-reviewed article said that so many, what do you call people who've been experimented on? Subjects or whatever, said this about that or experienced this. It's like, okay. And I know they try to control these studies and everything, and they try to do multiple markets and everything, but it's kind of like, it's just me. It sounds like you're the same way. I don't necessarily trust that. I do feel like there are fun, maybe science facts that we know, like dopamine. Dopamine, that's rushing into my, my brain when I experience something that feels good, the serotonin and whatever all that is, that it's like, oh, this is why. Some people like to know that because it's interesting. And so it's going to engage certain members of our audience who necessarily maybe aren't into the, I'm here and we're having fun, and they're kind of like, I'm introverted, I don't want this interactivity. But if you can give me some nuggets of science, I'm going to walk away like, I'm going to transform, because now I know that scientifically I can, transform because, I don't know, because they need that science.
Sure.
I guess. So,
sure.
But I hear what you're saying. I think it's definitely a balance. For me, maybe the reason I'm fixated on it or sound fixated on it is because I've always lacked it in the past and am working more toward getting more of it in. So I think that's where I'm at right now. But I don't just want to throw it in to be like, okay, science box is checked. I want it to be like, this is actually helpful information relevant to the topic, and not trying to sound like an expert in something that I'm not an expert in.
Sure.
Right? And so that's why I think you have to be careful with the science. And also, not only, when you just hear a quote or a statistic, it's so easy to be like, oh, that's relevant, I'm plugging that in. But it's like, man, where did that come from really?
Yeah.
And is it really true? And has it changed? Did they find out, oh, this was a bogus study? Have you ever done that where you're like, I'm going to use this stat, and then you read further down, you're like, oh, since then it's been come out that this wasn't relevant, and you're like, oh man, now I can't use that perfect piece that was going to serve me.
Yes.
So you get a little selfish.
Well,
with the way
what
that
you
works.
just said is really what we're seeing as the phenomenon going on in society and where we get information, right? So we can literally find anything right now that's going to support our narrative. And what you just said, Devin, is, oh man, this thing really was going to serve me.
Yes.
And that's where I struggle, because we could come up with any topic right now, nutrition, health, and we could find 27 different articles that all say, contrasting things. And so at the end of the day, I think I heard that feedback that you got too, and you said, I never had the science or the statistics, and so I'm incorporating more of it. Right. And I thought, what do people really want? For me, in my own personal opinion, what do I hear consistently people want? Well, people want to feel that we relate. They want to feel that you, that you listening and watching today, we have things in common, or we've seen similar things. So what I found to be more beneficial to me, or for me, in the effectiveness of my keynote, is instead of incorporating a statistic of how many people suffer through darkness, or how serotonin and dopamine can help you through darkness, I'll share something to the extent of, the one common thread that everybody in the world shares, the one common connection that nobody can argue. Everybody on the planet has gone through something, is going through something, or will go through something. It is absolutely inevitable. And so as you hear that, you're like, yeah, I have been through it. Or crap, I'm going through it right now. Or I know the other shoe is about to drop because things have been great for me. Right. And now immediately, it wasn't a statistic that piqued people's interest. It was a relatable point where people were like, yeah, you know what, that's right. And I think that is where we can really lean into our overall effectiveness and drive stronger outcomes and the results that we desire.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. You're right, because, when we get feedback on a survey, it's rarely about the science, right? It's like,
unless you're Bill Nye.
Fun, right? Yeah, but it is like, you moved me to tears. My kids need to hear this. Well, awesome nuggets that I can take back to work with me. Life like transforming. So I mean, yeah, you have a good point. I like that, man. Food for thought. Just to be clear, I am the host of this podcast. This guy he's so good. He's got such a good energy. He's got strength, and he brought it back to the point where I'm kind of like bodybuilding and drinking coffee and la-da-la-da-la-da. He's like, hey, Devin, focus. So I like that. So okay, man. This is great. We did meet in Iowa randomly at a speaker showcase. I saw him on the lineup. I saw his profile picture. He was wearing a bow tie. So I thought you were a scientist. Honestly, I was like, dude, this guy's like going to bring some brain, right? And you did, but just the listeners, he's denying that he has a brain. But anyway, we met and we were like, dude, we could have driven together, because we're like, I'm from Shawnee, you're from Lenexa, we're like neighbors, and we could have driven our 3 hours to Des Moines together. But anyway, that's when we learned it, and then and then we had coffee not long after. Yes, because you were like, newer to speaking, man, and I don't mean to sound that like you haven't been doing this very long, but it was kind of like, so you were like, how do you market yourself? And I saw him crush at the showcase. I was like, dang, how long has this guy been speaking? Well, he's just natural, and we're gonna get more into his story and why he's so fun and all that. But I remember thinking, like, it's hard to help a speaker. Like, how do you help someone from like ground zero, we'll say, to like, how do you just start getting gigs, right? And I was like trying to tell you, start speaking at Lions clubs, do chambers events, get yourself out. I don't know if any of that helped or not, but I remember at the time you were like, I've decided to go at this full time, so you have a family, you have kids, and I remember you doing this thing where the weight of the world is on my shoulders. Right. How am I going to make this work? I was like, well, good luck, let's stay in touch. I turn around, I turn back, and boom, this dude has exploded. And I'm hearing his name everywhere, and people are calling like, yeah, we're considering you and Paul Long and Magic Johnson, and it's between you three. I'm like, well, clearly we know it's going to be Paul. So, no, but it was so great. And we were actually talking over breakfast, like, are we competitors? We had the whole conversation about we're friends, and while we don't get together as often as I want to, every time we see each other, like, let's start hanging out, and we're both just so busy, but isn't everybody? But it's like, we are competitors, but it's not a problem. If anything, it's a good thing. We can collaborate and like help each other, because like if I speak at an event, 1 year, I can recommend you next year, and it's like that, light someone else's candle. Sure. It doesn't take anything away from yours, and you can shine brighter together. So you could say competitors, but also, I guess, cohorts, is that the word? Where we can like work together.
We're a small mastermind group.
Yeah, we are a small,
a mastermind group of 2.
That's right. Masters of the universe with you here, man. By the power of Grayskull. Paul has the power. All right, man. So anyway, so that was kind of how we met, and so then I got to learn more about, you know, his message and fun, and his whole thing is Fundamism, which is a word you came up with. Is that like a trademarked word?
It is trademarked.
What we learned from Mark Camp a few episodes ago is that like when you make up a word or change the spelling of an existing word, it's easier to like trademark.
Yeah.
And so you've trademarked that, and is it fundamism.com?
Yep.
That's your website. So anyway, so he's got this like brand, this fun thing, and he goes to companies, and I want to get more into your message in a minute, but first I kind of want the backstory. I've gotten like the short story, but I want the long version of the long story.
Sure.
Which would be a great name for like, I don't know, some kind of like the long version with Paul Long.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever.
Ooh, it's like wordplay. Because my last name's Long.
I didn't even think of it.
Yes. Yes.
Man. No, so anyway, can you just give me like, since we're going to be talking about fun, and you speak to groups on how fun can impact their culture and really reach all the way down to the bottom line, why are you so fun? Does it go back to your childhood?
I do not know the answer to that question. I know I was a fun kid, yes. I gravitated towards a lot of things that gave me strength, and I'm good on the coffee. Thank you, sir. You know, I tell everybody I like my sugar with a hint of coffee. So this is
okay. All right.
This might be 8 French vanilla. It's just
You're
delicious.
a man that knows what you like.
That's exactly right.
It all goes to the biceps anyway, man. So who cares?
So I think beyond childhood, my first job out of college was for a contact center. And it was as an underwriter for a Fortune 300 insurance company.
Okay.
And so I was taking or fielding 50 to 60 calls a day. Well, if anybody's ever worked in a contact center or customer experience, you know that that's not the brightest environment to work in. Specifically, the candle comment that you referenced. That's a callback. So ultimately, there's a lot of darkness.
Thanks for explaining comedy to me. I appreciate
it. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of venting. People are calling not because they love you and everything that you offer the world, but rather they got a problem, and you are either the root cause of said problem or the only thing standing between them and a solution. And so I learned quickly that I had to be a light, that I had to take whatever happened on the last call, wipe it away like it never happened, and go into this one and create a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
And so I was always doing stupid stuff like silly intros. It's a magnificent Monday here at Farmers Insurance. I'm going to make your day magnificent too. And
you kept your job.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So some people would laugh like you did. You know, other people, because they had a problem, would say things like, oh, "I'm glad your day's going so magnificent because mine's certainly not." And at that point, I would just say, you know, Devin, I'm terribly saddened to hear you're having such a bad day. I take great pride at lifting people up a little closer where I am when we get off the call than when we first started. So how could I help bring a smile to your day? And what typically would happen is people lower their guard. And I hit them with something unexpected. And that was really the brainchild or the birth of this concept, which I didn't know at the time, was a brain pattern interrupt. So they were expecting a fight. They were expecting to call and have an elongated discussion about why I didn't fulfill their expectations or what they want to happen on this call. And when I hit them with something that they were unexpecting, or not expecting rather, they were taken aback. They didn't know how to respond. Typically they hit me with that quiver lip where somebody wants to talk but they don't know what to say. You know what I mean?
You can hear it.
That's right.
It's that obvious.
Yeah, and you know, it's not you that I'm mad at, Paul. It's the situation, right?
Sure. Nice.
And so over time, what ended up happening is I would carry with me this spirit. My bosses, they would call me Tigger because I was always just, you know, jumping about.
Nice.
And I always had energy, no matter what was going on. So I started consulting at one point in time, and I had a peer consultant ask me, like, is this you all the time? Are you always like this? Are you always so...
And Melissa's like, yeah.
Yes. This was pre-Melissa. So,
Pre-Melissa,
yeah,
okay,
pre-Melissa. Wow. Which, side note, we met in the 5th grade, so I didn't know that you knew that. But
so this was not pre-Melissa.
Well, it was... We didn't connect until our 10-year high school class reunion.
What took you so long,
I know.
man? Get with it.
It was a lot of learned experience. But
Understood.
Nevertheless, what ended up happening was this gentleman said, you know, what do you do? How do you do it? Knowing that everybody has gone through something, is going through something, or will go through something, how do you remain so upbeat? And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. I just believe that fun and optimism can get us through a lot of stuff. He said, well, are you deliberate? Are there certain things that you do to have more fun, that to remain optimistic? And I go, yeah, I mean, I guess so. Like, I listen to music. I work out consistently for hours on end. I go for a walk. I watch stand-up comedy. I watch my favorite magician at Old Shawnee Days, you know. I actually saw this gentleman perform magic at Old Shawnee Days.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to brag, but I was at the local county fair.
Hey, you were a legend in my kid's eye.
Old Shawnee Days actually is rock. Big shout out to Old Shawnee Days. I did that like 11 years in a row, by the way.
But not this year.
But I'm not going to change, not this year. I finally was like, I love you. I love Old Shawnee Days, but it was, you know, 7 kids. Anyway, I don't want to derail us. So yeah, so
the short of it
magic
is,
shows, and
he says, oh, so you're saying that you live by certain fundamentals?
Yeah.
I said, yeah. He goes, fun, optimistic, later, here we are sitting at etc. Doing the bull dance, feeling the flow.
Dude, that's I'd never heard the story of the origin of the word.
Yeah, it was the origin
story. I love that, and that it came from someone else who saw something great in you, right? Because sometimes we create our own brand. I told Mark Camp I wanted to be Devin when I first started. Don't you laugh? That's good.
That is awesome.
And but like when someone else saw this, and I love the story that someone else brought that together for you, but it was totally you, and I love that, man. So Fundamism. So I know that I don't know if this is a fast forward or rewind, but I remember a story you shared in your showcase spot about going around Kansas City, going to the bars, dressing up in a cat wrestling onesie. I mean, because there's evidence of fun in his life. There's some people who you just know are living out their message. And tell us your answering machine when I call you. And what do you say when you answer?
This particular one says, what's good? You've reached Paul Long with Fundamism. What's good? You've reached Paul Long with Fundamism. Leave your name, number, and the best thing that's happened to you today, and I'll be sure to get right back to you.
Nice. The last time I heard it was name your favorite childhood sitcom.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
What is your favorite childhood sitcom?
Oh, dude. Oh, there's so many. Oh, man. I'm going to have to go with Full House, dude. Full House was so good, but then there was like different strokes, man. You know? Okay. But it immediately takes you back to a fun, safe, amazing place that's like, I was not expecting that. And I remember that made me feel so good.
Yes.
Case in point, man, Fundamism.
Yeah, brain pattern interrupt.
I love it.
So you have all these business leaders that tune into your podcast because you connected with them at an event, right? And they're all looking for ways to create meaningful interactions with their staff, with their customers, with their sales team, with their family, right? With their congregation, whoever, with the cashier at the local grocery store.
Yes.
And every single individual with whom we connect has gone through something, is going through something, or will go through something. And that voicemail, just as simple as what's one good thing's happened, what's your favorite childhood sitcom, people aren't expecting that.
Yeah, totally.
It serves as a brain pattern interrupt.
Yes.
And so the things that have happened as a result of that voicemail greeting are nothing short of amazing. The childhood sitcom one specifically.
Yeah.
I've had people hang up and immediately text me. I got overwhelmed by your voicemail. Just call me. I
did. I was like, there's too many, but it was a good thing. I was like, I'm hearing like all these jingles in my head of the theme songs. But
yes.
Yeah, man.
I had another lady. She left a 1.5-minute long voicemail greeting the power of Jesse Spano from Saved by the Bell in her life.
Wow. Yeah.
And specifically the episode where she got addicted to no-dose cramming for the SATs. Now, this is phenomenal because I remember that from 20 years ago when I saw it. But this lady left it on my voicemail last year.
Yeah.
And so not only did it create a brain pattern interrupt for her, but it took me to a place of joy for a brief moment.
Yeah.
Now, the most common phenomenon that takes place is, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And as a result, I don't have an answer for you. But thank you for making me smile today. And if we could do that, if you could do that with your staff, you could do that with your attendees at your conference, if you could do that with your sales team or the cashier or anybody in any given day, just imagine how present we would all be and a little more joyous in life.
Yeah, that's so great. I would imagine that post-pandemic, your topic just took off because that's what a lot of people need right now is like that. And I love how there's the science there, the brain pattern interrupt. And I'll just speak for me. It's all the science I need.
Yes.
I don't need to be like, well, explain how and why. It's like, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Beautiful.
Like because I've experienced it, and I'm sure you have ways that you help your attendees experience it in the moment.
Yep.
In your keynote to make them go, I get this. I
Yes.
don't need numbers and statistics and all that. That is science right there.
Yes.
So, but this topic, I'm guessing, took off after the pandemic? Like, people need this?
Devin, I don't know. I mean, yes is the answer to the question that people need it.
Yeah.
But you mentioned how we first met and the question I asked you, how do I get started? How do I get gigs?
Yeah.
I'm booking as many gigs as I want today, just as I was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I didn't see an increase in bookings. I saw the same amount of bookings at a higher rate, if that makes sense, right?
Sure.
And so as we're growing as individuals, time is important and is a value. We sacrifice a lot, family and all that stuff. And so the goal was, well, if I'm doing 90 to 100 gigs a year at this clip, well, I need to raise my fee so I could be home with the family a little bit more.
Sure.
Well, I raised the fee and I wasn't home more with the family. So the demand was still there.
Yeah.
I think the demand for joy, fun, and fulfillment, brain pattern interrupts, meaningful interactions, embracing awkward moments is the same today that it always was. It's just that we're hearing about it so much more because of all of this going on in society.
Sure, right. Well, I think when people book speakers, there's so many topics fight for the, like what is it now? AI, diversity, you got like what. And so it's like maybe sometimes that joy, people don't recognize it, but I would imagine, and again, that after COVID, it would be one of those things that would be like, oh, wait, people are suffering, people are hurting, people are depressed. Where's the joy factor?
Yes.
This is so maybe even unbeknownst to you, and I don't know, but maybe it was like that's why things even, because as far as from what I can see, things just keep getting better and better in your career. So maybe people saw that like Paul's bringing something that is timeless that we always needed, but now we know more than ever that we need this thing, So I love the brain pattern interrupt. I love that. Another story you shared in your showcase, I got so much out of just your I've only seen you showcase like 2 times, and you crush it every time.
Well, thank you.
And you get bookings off of it. And one of the stories was how you pulled up in your car and you're singing a song shamelessly.
Yeah.
Something that I wouldn't do because I'm too self-aware and too proud. But tell me that story. How was that? How did you create a brain pattern interrupt for a stranger? How did that work?
So music is the world to me. And like many of your listeners, I think we could all find a song that can create a certain emotion, whether it's breaking the cycle of some darkness or making us smile or making us laugh or making us cry. Some people listen to music for that, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately music it's part of the reason why I can work out for 2 hours, because I'm not there to lift. I'm there to listen to music and to escape whatever it is going on in my career.
That's another lifting to listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
That's it. That's our next podcast. What's the science behind that?
I'm like the king of interrupting at the wrong time.
Please, you can do that
go on. So
at any given time.
You're at the gym to you're lifting, but you're listening.
Yes.
I think it was a Tina Turner song. Am I right?
Yes.
I gotta dance with somebody who loves me. Or is that the song?
That's Whitney Houston.
That's Whitney.
You're killing it. You're killing it. But all right, so here, just let me tell the story.
Oh man, but I was gonna try to like make you proud by remembering.
You remember the artist.
I remember the artist.
And you remember the location, which was a car.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I'm driving down the street
You're throwing me bones. And it was a bright day. I don't know.
Was it a bright day? Yes, you remember the detail. You remember the detail that I didn't.
Dude, I'm telling you, more coffee.
So
all right.
I'm doing a gig in Austin, Texas, driving down the street. I grew up on Motown. My mom is a big Motown fan, so any given Saturday, no matter how hungover I was in my college years, Saturday morning, 7 a.m., Mom flips on some Marvin Gaye, some Temptations, the Four Tops, some Tina Turner, and she's vacuuming. She's cleaning the house, right? And so at the time, I didn't like it because, I wasn't ready to get up at 7 a.m., Devin.
Yeah.
But that stuck in me. Like, I have a strong affection for that music, right? Motown, and it makes me feel some kind of way. So,
Awesome.
Driving down the street, Austin, Texas, Tina Turner comes on, What's Love Got to Do With It? And I just lean into the chorus, you know, whoa, what's love got to do with it? And I'm just feeling myself, pull up to a stoplight, and I just feel somebody gawking at me, right? And we've all felt that, right? You even said, I'm too in my own head, I'm too self-conscious, or whatever it may be. We've all had that moment where we feel like somebody's staring at us at a stoplight. Longest red light of all time, right? And I'm like, I'm not gonna look over there, I'm not gonna look over there. Finally, I kind of glance over there and I see this woman trying to get my attention. She's like, you know, roll down your window. So I roll down the window just as the chorus comes on, and she belts out, What's Love Got to Do With It, singing it with me. And so the moral of the story is you have two completely different individuals creating a meaningful interaction because we were listening to music with intent. We embraced an awkward moment, right? We led with kindness. We differentiated ourselves, and ultimately we're just the change that we wish to see. That, my friend, was just 5 fundamentals of Fundamism that we wrapped into one story.
Wow.
Brain pattern interrupts.
That's amazing. That's good.
Sips coffee.
Yeah, y'all. There it is. Sit and bask in that for a second. That's amazing. And now I think people want to pull up next to you just to experience this thing. But at the very least, they should call you and experience the voice like answer machine for themselves.
Maybe.
You know? So,
or call
anyway,
Devin.
okay.
Like we said.
Yeah, it's Devin. Leave a message. I'm probably changing diapers. No, good. Paul, thanks for the review on those stories. Those are so good, man. So I know I just keep asking for story after story. The cat onesies, can you share about that? Okay, yes. Because this is all relevant to you and your message and your story.
So years ago, I have a friend that's been my best friend since the 5th grade. He was there when I first met Melissa, and coincidentally, he was also there that the night that Melissa and I rekindled an old flame that Melissa never had to begin with, but I always did. So the candle was bright, but not for her.
Okay.
That's a callback.
The candle thing just keeps coming up.
So John Stoner,
you needed to light her candle, right?
True. That is true, and I did metaphorically.
Yes, right.
So, is that right? Metaphorically?
Yeah, there were no physical candles that night.
No, not at all. So, but there are now.
Oh, yes.
Because of a birthday recently.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
My buddy John Stoner is a master of the interwebs. He has seen the end of the internet and found all of its glory. So one day, he reaches out to me and says, dude, did you realize that they make wrestling singlets with cat profile pics on them? And I said, John, how could I possibly know that? Well, he said, good point, Paul, I bought 2. And I go, what are we going to do with those? He says, I don't know, but it's going to be awesome. Well, the year is 2014. The Kansas City Royals, located here in Kansas City, where you and I reside, they had not made a postseason in 29 years. Now, they're actually doing okay in 2014. They are competitive. They're winning games. Derek Jeter is retiring from baseball, and he's going to all these various MLB stadiums, and people are doing crazy send-offs for him. Gift baskets, songs, signs. So John reaches out and says, I figured it out. Cat singlets. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to wear these out to Kaufman where the Royals play. We're going to come up with signs that read things like Derek Jeter, one classy cat. I'm like, all right, you have my attention. He says, well, they haven't made the postseason in 29 years. How about pursuit of the World Series? Classic, right? He says, also imagine this. 2 strikes, bottom of the 9th, big game on the line, and all of a sudden we break out and chant, a strike 'em outright, meow. I'm like, John, this is genius. I said, I'll do it on one condition and one condition only.
Strike them out, right meow.
Right meow.
Okay, I was making sure I had that right.
I said, I'll do it, but we have to call ourselves the designated litter. So good. There's so many cat puns, Devin.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
So
as a dad, I appreciate these very much.
You're not just a dad, dude. You're a father of 7.
Well, you know.
Girls.
Yes.
The number's right?
Yeah,
7. I keep saying
7.
that. I was hoping that you called me out if it wasn't.
No, yeah, I'd be like, wow.
It's actually 2.5, Paul.
Yes, yeah.
But nevertheless, We go out to the stadium, chaos ensues. We take over 150 photos day one. My wife will tell you, Melissa will tell you, I don't like going to the Royals game with Paul and John if they're dressed like that because it's like going with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
Like it is silly. We made the Jumbotron 6 times. We were mentioned in a post-game interview by Derek Jeter. He called us the cat suit guys.
Wow.
We go on live TV the next day. We're interviewed by the equivalent, the Kansas City equivalent of Ron Burgundy. It was nuts. We get written up in Yahoo Sports, in the Washington Post, in a full-page article in the Wall Street Journal. The Royals go on a 10-game winning streak, and now all of a sudden Kansas City is like, hey, these cats, they're the reason why we're winning. Superstition setting in. We got to create a GoFundMe account to send these cats, these crazy cats, to all the postseason games. And so the city went, it was silly. It was a phenomenon that really took off. Devin, I think that I would not be sitting in this seat apart from you or aside from you right now if it wasn't for the moment that my buddy called me to wear wrestling singlets, because that moment was a very definitive and specific example of how Fundamism can manifest in life. I got out of my head and stopped worrying about what people thought about me, because the truth is, people don't think about me. And if indeed we can just all subscribe to that mantra, get out of that self-conscious mindset that we have, worried about how people are receiving us or whatever it may be, then the mindset and all of the possibilities inside are abound.
Wow. So many questions in there. Wow. Now, the next year, I'll get to the questions, but 2015, the Royals won the World Series.
Yes, sir.
Which I discovered this on my own. I'm not the only one, but Back to the Future, right? Go with me here, audience. In 1985 is when that movie originally took place. That's where they start, right? Who won the World Series that year?
McFly, let me see here. That was George Brett and the Kansas City Royals.
It was George Brett and the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
Where did now in Back to the Future 2, they go to the future. What year do they fly forward to?
Is it 2015?
You're freaking out, aren't you? Yes.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy that
Yes.
the Royals are all over Back to the Future? I bet you in 1885 they probably won that World Series too.
That's true.
But isn't that weird?
It is weird.
Okay, a little trivia. What was the team in the movie when they were projecting? What was the team that won? If Back to the Future 2 had come true,
I'm gonna guess the Cubs.
it was the Cubs.
You know why? It was low hanging fruit because
It's who they played. Is that not so
yes.
prophetic that people were going oh my gosh, Back to the Future 2 people were prophetic that the Cubs are going to win, but then the Royals sabotage it all because Kansas City rocks. So anyway, all freaky. Now, your cats, right? Slugger, the Royals mascot, is a lion, is a kind of cat.
Feline.
Did you ever, was there ever any relationship with Slugger? Was it hey, we're distant cousins, or was that even brought into the whole situation?
He was close. We were.
I sense a little bit of we should have had that gig.
No, we saw Slugger a lot.
Yeah.
That situation created so many experiences in my life. When we won the ALDS, we were down at McFadden's dressed as cats in the cat singlets. And all the Royals were celebrating their victory. Salvador Perez, Danny Duffy, Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas.
Cool.
They led us behind the red velvet ropes.
Wow.
To celebrate with all of these folk. And Salvador Perez is literally pouring champagne over my buddy, John Stoner. And I'm sitting right next to Danny Duffy, who is one of my best friends to this day, because of a stupid wrestling singlet with cat profile pics on it.
Wow, man.
So going back to your point about Slugger, it all culminated. We were voted by Major League Baseball and the Kansas City community as Fans of the Year. And so we got to go down on the field. We got Louisville Slugger bats with our names on it, says Fans of the Year, and got an awesome picture taken with Slugger right there on the pitcher's mound.
Wow, dude, that's amazing. I love how this just it at first glance might seem like that's a fun story, that's crazy, but really for you, that brain pattern interrupt, right? For the fans being who are these guys down here? I kept calling them onesies. I'm sorry, singlets. With cat profiles on them, what's going on? The brain pattern interrupt for people who are already having a great time. So you took people from who are oh man, we're celebrating our home team is crushing it this year, postseason, and creating an even more memorable experience for them. It doesn't matter where you are. on the spectrum of fun or no fun, there's always, like for me, possibility mindset. What else is possible? What's the next level of greatness?
Yeah.
With Fundamism, there's always that next level, right?
Yes.
And that's what I love about that story.
Yes, and so you said it's improv. You were improv guy, weren't you? Or no, just flat out?
Just went straight to stand up.
Just straight to stand up.
I wish improv. I think would have been fun, but you can't do everything. That's all
true.
the time in the world.
That's true.
So.
But you could do some stuff though.
I mean, I've never officially was part of an improv troupe.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking me, but if you want to ask me again, maybe
we're improving right
we
now.
Are, man. No, I did gig at the Kansas City Improv, the comedy club.
Yes,
maybe
sir.
That's what you
very
know.
familiar.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was one time, and this happened more often than one would think. Somebody would reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook Messenger or something like that. We would be enjoying the game. John would be crushing beers. I'm not a big drinker, so I would just be crushing laughs and dance moves and all that stuff.
Heck yeah, little Tina Turner.
That's
or
Whitney.
Yeah,
whatever. Whoever you're into.
I'm there,
or whoever you define as the other. But
I'll mess it up for you.
I'll never forget going to a game and a couple days later receiving a direct message on Twitter from a gentleman from Iowa. And he said, we sat 2 rows behind you in left field out by the Miller Bar. And unbeknownst to you, we came down for the weekend to escape what was going on in our personal lives. My wife just got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. She was in remission for a couple years. It just came back. We got 2 kiddos. We weren't in the right headspace. We got a babysitter, literally just to come down and experience a Royals game. And you guys dancing, acting a fool, and the designated litter, and that whole area saying, strike them out, write me out, and 2 strikes are there. You brought a smile to our day and got us out of this darkness that we were experiencing. And so you take for granted that people are in a cool spot and that everybody's having a great time. Well, still, everybody in great spots has gone through it, is going through it, or will go through it. And so being present and creating that light and trying to find ways to ensure that people, most importantly yourself, because when you are right and when you're earning the respect of yourselves or yourself, then more often than not, people will start to follow suit, right?
Man, I always forget. And who was I talking to? Mark Camp or Mark Mayfield, one of the Marks that I interviewed. You just forget. Everyone's
Is it Mark McGuire?
Wouldn't that be cool? Someone has gone through it, is going through it, will go through it. And we just, when things are kind of fine for us, we get we forget. What I think also when I get distracted from other people's problems is when I'm experiencing sort of low grade stress.
Sure.
I'm all focused inward here. I'm all cerebral. It's like, oh man, someone's dealing with something far bigger over here.
Sure.
And I forget. Like, how can I remember? Is there a way? I don't know if I'm asking you or asking the listeners. How do you remember that everyone's always going through something? And there's something I need to be better about, more mindful of.
Sure.
So
I think for me specifically, it helps when you put yourself in situations where you can visibly see and experience other people that don't have it as great as you. So through all of the catsuit journey, I got the opportunity to meet little Noah Wilson, a 6-year-old who was diagnosed with a very rare form of pediatric cancer, became the board president of his charity, Noah's Bandage Project. And when I got to go to the hospital, Children's Mercy Hospital, and I could see little Noah in a medically induced coma and his parents, crying, grieving, and singing to him, knowing that he didn't have much time left. You can't help but reflect and say, are my problems significant? They are to us in the moment, right? And no one can ever argue that.
Right.
But I think the most important thing to remember is somebody in this world always has it worse than you, and quite honestly, they're handling it just a little bit better.
That's good. So I think one of the answers then to that question is get involved in charities, get involved in other people's problems, right? So that you can help people, you can pray for them, you can be reminded of that people are hurting and struggling, and it gives you perspective then on your own life. And I know that's what was my next question was, you and John got the opportunity to do a lot of charity type work because of the whole cat onesie thing, right? And so that's awesome. I know you gave so much and made such a big difference for any people. So both those stories are incredible. The one, those give me chills. It's like, oh man, so thanks for sharing that. Now, one time, it reminded me of a time where I was at a Royals game with a group of people. a group of guys who meant no harm at all. And this was like pre-World Series stuff and everything. But the opposing team, I can't even remember who they were playing, hit a home run. And we were like in the left field wall, and there was a family in front of us, and one of them caught the ball. And you know what the etiquette is when the other team hits a home run. You throw the ball back. Well, they didn't throw it back. So the group of guys that I was with, one of our guys, he's a good guy. He's just there having fun. Yes. He goes, throw it back! And they're all like, throw it back. And he's yelling explicatives, and he's really loud. And we're talking like, they looked like a family, who had traveled in, and they're just there to catch a ball and go home. And I mean, it was like, wow, creating the opposite kind of experience that you created for that family from Iowa with your cat, Shinglets. Sure. And so it was like, as they were leaving, there was something in me going, go talk to that family, explain to what I wanted to say was, I'm too embarrassed to tell you what group I'm with, because I don't want that to be your fight, because this is not really what we're about. We're safe people. That was all meant in good fun. But on behalf of us, I'm so sorry that, and I didn't have the courage to do it. I knew that my group would see me going up there and be like, what's he doing?
Sure.
We let him go. They didn't throw the ball back, and so there was some pride, and I didn't do it. But, there's going to be people in our culture at work who are more like that, yes. Right? And maybe they don't even mean harm. Maybe it's who they are. But can the fun that we provide, can it override that? And how do you do that in a gentle way that's not like, because I don't want to turn around and be like, hey, stop it. And that's not going to be effective. He's going to be like, hey, man, be quiet. I'm going to do whatever I want. So is there a way to sort of like override that negative energy with Fundamism?
Sure.
Or is it just automatic? You just do it and it takes care of everything,
No, I think yes, specifically is the answer to your question. Mm-hmm. And you have to be deliberate. We have to be deliberate at times in doing so. And what I love about this question is organically, you're going back and addressing something that I wanted to say. So specifically, you referenced charity and being willing to get involved with what other people are going through. Mm-hmm. It's imperative that we address the fact that sometimes you're going to be involved in other people's problems, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, and you or we are not capable of handling those at that time. So specifically, let's say we're in the midst of going through something, right? Mm-hmm. And so Devin comes to me and he is talking to me about a toxic relationship or what's going on at work or having a very difficult performance management discussion with a staff member, right?
Yeah.
And he's just vomiting all over me with negativity. All the while, I already am dealing with something in my own element, right? In my own brain. So do I have or allow Devin to lean on me in this moment, knowing that I have zero energy to give because I'm going through it?
Right.
Well, now this is where we are with your question. Are you just natural, always fun? Like what happens? You know what nobody has ever told me in life, Devin? It is okay for you to say, listen, Devin, I know you're going through it today. Coincidentally, I'm going through it today too, and I'm really trying to protect my energy right now. If you don't mind, I want to be able to have this discussion with you, but is it okay if I circle back later this afternoon or even tomorrow to check in on you? Because I fear that I am not going to be able to support you in the capacity that you need right now because I'm going through it myself. Nobody has ever said that to me because I think that we feel like it's faux pas to say, I can't right now. I can't help you right now. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, there are folks in this world, and you know them, who, if you're listening right now, you know them, the energy suckers, or the succubus, as I call them, that will literally just take every ounce of energy that you have. And they will tell you and tell us consistently of all the things that aren't working. And we'll lean into it, and we'll help them, and we'll identify strategies to potentially mitigate that darkness and create more of what's good. And then the next day happens, and you have the same discussion again. And you say, well, Devin, what did you do as a result of our discussion yesterday? And Devin says, I don't even remember what we talked about, bro, right? And so there is a time where it is perfectly acceptable for us to realize that if our energy is not right, we cannot help anybody. So we have to help ourselves and say, you know what, Devin? Right now, I greatly admire the fact that you're going through it because I know that you're trying. And I know I could see your strength and I could see that you desire to get out of it. Full disclosure, I'm in the same boat right now. I would love to be able to chat with you when my light's right. So can I circle back with you at a later date? There was always a fun story that happened that I love to tell. When I worked at Farmers, people would come up to me and they would always the call center space was always like chirpy, drama. Hey, did you hear about this? Have you heard about Melissa and Stephanie? Have you heard about what they're getting into? And I'd look at them and I'd be like, hey, speaking of Melissa and Stephanie, what's the best thing that's happened to you today? And they'd look at me confused. And well, what's that have to do with?
That's a major brain pattern confusion.
That's exactly right. And thank you for calling it out. That's exactly what it served as, a brain pattern interrupt. What's that have to do with Melissa and Stephanie? I'd say not a dang thing, because I don't care about Melissa and Stephanie and the drama they're getting into. I care about you and the best things happen to you today. So what is it? Now, as a result of that discussion, one of two things typically happen. One, people stopped coming to me with their bullcrap. Or two, they stopped coming to me at all. Because they realize that I'm protecting my energy. If you're an individual that consistently finds yourself supporting others, and you yourself are consistently dealing with the ramifications and that darkness that ensues as a result of that, you have to ask yourself, why do people consistently come to you? Why do people always throw their toxicity or throw their problems on your shoulders? The answer is because we allow it. And it's perfectly acceptable sometimes to say, I'm not in the right mindset. I got to get the positivity mindset back before I can support you. Yeah. Or the possibility mindset.
Yeah, either one, really. Man, that's so good, Paul. I took a couple keys from that. I was like, man, in order to make Fundamism sustainable over time, there's many keys to it. It sounds like one is self-care. In other words, protecting your energy. And then also, I had another one, self-care, and then I forgot the other one.
Clearly strong takeaways.
Well, yeah, no, it was two, and now I'm like, oh, I had it, self-care and shoot, but yeah, I know what you mean by when people come to you and protecting the energy. Really, it's boundaries. Was the other one. That was the other one. Boundaries. That you have to realize, and I think introverts listening to your story were like, "Amen, brother, preach." Because there's times where, especially I've confessed this, that I'm an introvert. I can't take all that on.
Sure.
It's like the energy, protecting that, having that boundary, and one thing that a coach told me one time is anytime you're talking to someone, making it audience facing. So, that it's like, hey, if someone comes to you with a problem saying, hey, I can't do that right now, there's a language, and I'm sure you agree with this, that it's like, hey, I want to best serve you in this situation, right? In order to do that, I want to be at my best place so I can help you. So allow me a little bit of time to collect myself, because if I try this right now, it's going to be messy. I want to really come back at a time where I can be respectful of your time and my time, and we can find a solution to make this work, right? Because that audience-facing thing makes them go, well, this is still it's about me, it's not about you. But I love that whole boundary thing. It took me a long time to learn boundaries. Sure. I'm still learning it, obviously. But just that whole thing, we can't just always constantly be putting out. Even if you're as much of a fun guy as you are, I'm sure you have those times where it's like, okay, I need a nap. I need to be by myself for a little bit in order to sustain that over time. So.
Well, I think as a fun guy, and even in our role, right? You as a speaker as well, we experience this regularly, because we talk about how you could potentially experience life if you let go of some of these things. People feel as though we are a great resource to talk about their things.
Right.
And so I'm constantly talking to others about their things. And so I've had to learn that if I can't establish boundaries and I can't make it to a place where, I love what you just said, it's not about, I can't help you right now, but rather, I fear that if I try to help you right now, I'm not going to be able to serve you in the nature that you best need. Let's circle back, because I'm dealing with my own darkness right now, and I want to be able to shine light on you, not make your darkness even more bleak. Yeah. Gosh, that's powerful. Yeah. Like, just imagine, right?
Yes, that's so good, man.
But one other thing that you referenced that I want to cover, hopefully before we wrap up, is from a marketing perspective, we are, I don't know how you're categorized in the space, but I think people consistently see me as a motivational speaker, an inspirational speaker, a Chris Farley-esque, right? And so I haven't done myself any favors by marketing myself as the fun guy and this Fundamism, the fundamentals of a fun and optimistic lifestyle.
Right.
A lot of business leaders see this concept and they don't necessarily think tactical takeaways to
Sure.
improve meaningful interactions, or how to escalate customer experience, or have more, you know, memorable one-on-ones or effective team huddles, right? It's just not what they see. And I haven't historically done a great job of connecting the dots.
Yep, I can relate.
So, and I knew that. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. Because I know that you experienced it in the magician space.
Yes, for sure.
And then developing that concept and leveraging some of those amazing tricks and techniques into real substantive content, as you do now, we get pigeonholed, right?
Yep.
And so ultimately, what I've really been focusing a lot of my energy on lately is, yes, I do talk about the power of joy, fun, and fulfillment and brain pattern interrupts, but let me be explicitly clear to you and everybody listening. These fundamentals, things like creating meaningful interactions, will enhance every level of your business. So if creating meaningful interactions is having a desired outcome of one of three things: how do I make somebody smile, laugh, or feel appreciated at any given conversation? Imagine we all went into every single conversation with that outcome in mind. How do I make somebody smile, laugh, or feel appreciated? Imagine your sales numbers. Imagine your development sessions. Imagine how your experience would go with customers. They would feel as though you truly value them and you respect their time and their energy. And that's just one aspect of the fundamentals of a fun and optimistic lifestyle. So something that it took me a long time to learn from a marketing perspective, I wonder how many clients I didn't get the opportunity to work with because I wasn't explicitly clear on what the value prop was to them.
Because clearly, and that was one of my things, hey, how does fun affect the bottom line? Well, you just answer the question, because when you start infiltrating your culture with Fundamism, that goes everywhere, right? It spreads, it's contagious, it's a good kind of spread, and the sales numbers are going to go up, customer service is going to improve. I mean, because it's a team and everything's going to be working better together. And in terms of, the struggle with marketing, I've been I transitioned from magician to speaker. It was about 13, 14 years ago. And I had that where I was doing so much magic, so little message. And over time, that ratio started changing. And then it was like, okay, I felt like the keynote was at a really good place of have all these great takeaways with some magic in there, but my marketing makes it look like I'm a magician. So when buyers come to the site, and they look at me and they're like, magician, let's go to Magic Johnson, what's he got? Or, they might look at Paul Long and be like, fun, okay.
Did you see what you just did?
You know what I do.
So you said magician, all right, let's go on magic.
Oh, weird. Magic Johnson. So anyway, but I'm not as good at making the candle references as you, that's for sure. You took the cake on that one. Oh! So anyway, but and they might look at Paul and be like, okay, fun, move on. But so for me, and I don't know where, I haven't looked at I need to look at your website, but not that I have the answers, I'm just curious. I like your face. For me, it was really getting some input from buyers and bureaus who what are people looking for when they initially go to your site, and when they glance for 5 seconds, what do they see? So someone recommended to me, take off any hint of magic on the hero section, which is like the first top part. Don't let them see you pulling cards in your video, in the autoplay video. It just has me on stage speaking, engaging, people laughing. Then it's like, okay, why are they laughing so much? Why are they having such a good time? Well, I don't answer that question right away because I don't want them to think, oh, magician, nope, scroll on, and then list your topics immediately. Mine are, resilience, mental health, teamwork, because I want people to know, right up front, these are the takeaways. Then you dig. Oh, he auditioned for America's Got Talent. Oh, magician. Okay, that explains some of that. But that initial impact, what are they seeing? What are they intaking? So fun. I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe there can. I'm not saying you have problems with marketing. I'm just bantering with you now. But if they see the word fun, it's like, oh, maybe that's like seeing the word magic. Sure. Or Fundamism. That's confusing. I don't know what that means. Yes. But if you lead with client relations, raising morale, teamwork like you've never seen, maybe those are the buzzwords that CEOs and the lieutenants of the organizations need to see to be like, this guy's got something good. Now, let's see how he does it. So they want the what and the why before they want the how. Sure. So for me, the magic is only part of the how. For you, the fun, part of the how. But if you lead with that, it can be misleading and cause confusion, where we want to make sure that immediately they're getting, what are these people going to take away from this? Because that's the most important part about the keynote. For sure. Yeah, I think what I learned from this experience and the journey, you kind of referenced in a roundabout way.
I realized that fun wasn't the outcome, but rather a vehicle that I leveraged to get to the outcome, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to your point now, if you go to my site, fundamism.com or pauljlong.com, you're going to see employee engagement. You're going to see culture shift. You're going to see creating meaningful interactions with others. All things that are driving the bottom line.
Yeah,
and
like maximize fulfillment, change perspective, manifest more of what. I love that's exactly. Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
I love it, dude. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's it. I also love how you just threw in just under the radar audition for America's Got Talent. You know,
it's not exactly a glorifying story, which is why I'm not afraid to mention it. You know, so that's awesome. Well, hey, man, I want to be respectful of your time, the audience facing.
Thank you.
Before, as we wrap, anything else you want to be before we say how to connect with you? Anything else you want to share about, as a keynote speaker, what you bring to the audience? If there's someone considering, like, Paul would be perfect for organization. Anything you want to throw about what people get or what it's like to work with you?
I think the most important thing to note for us both, and I think the reason why we haven't struggled through the pandemic or finding work, because when you book Devin Henderson or Paul Long as a speaker, you're getting the same person that we just had coffee with. You know what I mean? You're not talking to somebody that isn't like anybody that's in the audience at your conference. You're talking to somebody that's relatable, that leverages humor, that has tactical tips to improve your quality of life, not just at work, but at home as well. But most importantly, the key takeaway for you and for anybody listening to this, I am a big believer in energy. I believe the universe happens as and when it should. I am terrible at selling myself. And so if you're interested in working with Devin, reach out to Devin and ask him questions. If you're interested in working with me, reach out to Paul and ask me questions. At the end of the day, I could promise you this. I'm going to laugh at all my jokes, and I'm going to have the best of times. But most importantly, people are going to understand that everybody in that room has gone through it, is going through it, or will go through it. And so what are the fundamentals that can help improve their customer experience, improve their quality of life, and improve everything they do, not just at work, but personally as well?
I love that. And to piggyback on that, it's true. You get this when Paul's on stage. And you're so good at the engagement. You're immediately calling out, hey, I had this conversation on the elevator with this guy. Here's my book. Thanks for being nice this morning. And you're just, I've watched the audience with you just being like, who is this cat? Wink. And also the pop culture references that you make, just boom, one after the other, is like, I'm jealous of that, because I don't quite have that. Like you just spout that off and make it all relevant to the message. So book this guy. He's awesome. I'm just going to say also, one thing you said made me think of something, and you might appreciate this. Avish Parashar is an incredible speaker. He's a humorist. And he came and did a workshop one time for NSA Kansas City, National Speakers Association, our locals chapter. And he said one advice he gave about speaking on stage is, he goes, if I ever see you talking to someone across the room, whatever your mannerisms are, whatever your facial features are, that's what should be on stage. Because I know when I transitioned into speaker, I was like reading books on what to do with your hands and how to like pause.
Power stance.
Yeah, and it was like, no. That needs to be the same you on stage.
Yeah.
And then Scott McCain, years later, added to that advice for me, and he said, it's true that you want to be you on stage, but you're going to be the best version of you up there. Sure. The most fresh, the most professional version, right? So it's like we take the best of us and put it on stage, and that's what you get as a keynote speaker. And I can speak for both of us. That's what they get. They get the best version of the real us on stage.
I don't disagree.
I love it, man. Okay, so how can people connect with you?
pauljlong.com, fundamism.com. You can go to Fundamism Paul on any social media outlet. Love to interact with folks. At the end of the day, I'm just out here to create some brain pounding interrupts and hopefully spread a little more joy, fun, and fulfillment for others.
I love that, man. I love that. Well, obviously, something greater is always possible, and Fundamism is one way to help you and your people find next level greatness. So thank you all so much for joining us, Paul. Thanks for being here, man. It's great to see you. Let's hang out again soon. And maybe we'll do a part 2 or 3 or 4 sometime when we live right here.
Over cinnamon rolls.
Over cinnamon rolls, baby, and large orange juices.
Yes.
And speaking of, thank you again to Etc. Shawnee and Shan and everyone for hooking us up and just being so great. The food was awesome, was it not?
I mean, well, you put me on the spot. I can't say no. Yes, it was delicious.
Best cinnamon roll he's ever had. It was amazing. It really is good food. All right, so hey, we'll see you next time. And remember, never stop asking what else is possible.